Okay, our good friend, our very good friend, our first
That's
fan.
Right. Fanboy.
Sam Cilento. What's your title, Sam?
Sales director.
Sales director.
Yeah.
Okay.
At
Mr.
Lakota.
At Lakota
Sam
Software. Yep.
Mr. Sam Cilento, sales director at Lakota Software.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to finally get to sit down with you.
Yes.
I mean, we know each other quite well now, but I think the best thing for our audience, tell us about Lakota.
Yeah, so Lakota Software is a biometric software company. We're located in Fairmont, West Virginia, in the U.S. Very small company. Started in 2007. Primarily started as an engineering services company providing software engineering support to the FBI and their biometric programs, as well as the DoD. The U.S. Army has a database as well, the DoD ABIS. So we supported that program from a software engineering standpoint. And then from that experience, we've developed our own set of COTS products, right? Commercial off-the-shelf software that we sell back to the government agencies, as well as other integrators and commercial partners of ours. So,
Yeah. I feel like it's like you're playing a very important role in the middle of like a identity tech ecosystem.
yes. Yeah, we have a specific niche, I would say, within the industry. We have an SDK called Ani, that's ANI, which is basically a software library that other vendors can use if they're building a biometric solution from the ground up. This library will allow them to build compliant NIST files. So think of it as Microsoft Word for biometric files, right? So it's going to allow you to, it's going to give you real-time verification that the data you're collecting from your system, the biometric data, the demographic data, you're compiling a compliant, you're building a compliant file, I should say, that will then be submitted to a backend, to an ABIS, right, or an APHIS, whatever you want to call it. So it gives you that real-time validation that you're building the file to the right standard and spec. So you have the NIST, ANSI NIST ITL define the standard for what a biometric file should look like. Under that NIST standard, there's many different specifications that were developed. So the FBI has an EBTS, which is Electronic Biometric Transmission Specification. They have their own way they want files formatted, right? If you wanted to submit to the DoD ABIS, they also use EBTS, but it's a little bit different than the FBI EBTS, right? Interpol, NATO has a standard as well. At the state level, for state APHIS systems, they would have a specific standard or specification that they would want the live scan vendors to follow. So when you build that biometric file, it needs to conform with that specification. So we're kind of like that behind the scenes engine that gives you the verification that you're building the right file. One of the things that we're really proud of is the FBI uses the ANI library. So it kind of sits at the front door to NGI, which is their ABIS, Next Generation Identification.
Right.
ANI will check all the submissions coming in from the different states, right? It'll check all the submissions coming in for compliance before they get submitted into the actual database, right? So you know that you're getting a clean, compliant format. Or it'll kick the file out if it's not conforming to that specification.
So it's like a lot of law enforcement in the U.S. is sort of connected to
this. Law enforcement, military. Yep,
right.
Exactly.
And NATO, well, I guess like
NATO.
The U.S. as well.
Yeah.
Does Lakota serve organizations outside of law enforcement, military, or like how are you expanding your market?
Yeah. So if we're not directly working with the agency or the government agency, so to speak, or the state and local agency, we'll work with other software companies or integrators. We'll give them those components they need to build the larger biometric system. Maybe they want to build their own ABIS, so we can kind of help them develop that whole ecosystem, right? From capture to building the files to submitting it to the ABIS itself, putting the matchers in, right? So we kind of bring a vendor agnostic approach as well. So our software is integrated with many of the different hardware providers out there as far as for capture devices, for fingerprint capture, palm print, face, iris. So you can build a multimodal collection system if you wanted. And then on the back end where the matching occurs, the enrollment and identification, we can integrate with a lot of the common matchers that are out there that you guys know, obviously. There's a lot of vendors on both sides of it.
I'm really suddenly intimidated by you, Sam.
Oh,
No,
Because
it was down
I wouldn't say that, yeah.
You guys, you're a small, very like, at least from what we can tell, it looks like a pretty small, like very down-to-earth, friendly team.
Yep.
And now I'm finding out that your stuff is used by the FBI and NATO,
Yeah,
military.
it's pretty cool. We are a small team. We're only 12 employees right now. We kind of fluctuated between 10 and 15, I would say, over the years. A majority of our employees are working contract work, at the FBI. There's other programs that we support there. So our office in Fairmont is located 10 miles. I don't know what that is in kilometers. 10 miles
knows.
north.
No one knows
Impossible
yet.
to say.
Yeah, north of the FBI CGIS campus where this NGI database lives, as well as the DoD ABIS program as well. So there's a campus there in a town just south of our office. So we're kind of co-located with two of the largest biometric databases in the world.
Yeah, that's cool.
And as a West Virginia company, it's very cool to see all of that biometric work occurring right in our backyard, so to speak. So yeah, it is intimidating, especially when you go visit the FBI campus.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a
but-
reason to worry. And I'm looking at Alex as I say this.
It's just cut this. We'll cut this.
It's staying in. It's staying in. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before. It's just really cool, the role that you guys fill. And I'm not sure that I know what, like you said you were founded in 2007, but like what background, like what was the genesis of the company? Like what is even your background? Like
Well,
who are you?
yeah,
Is this a like born identity kind of situation? Or?
No, far from it. I'm just a small town West Virginia boy that grew up, born and raised in West Virginia. I have an engineering background. I don't develop software though. The rest of our employees are software developers, software engineers, and they're all West Virginia natives as well. So that's one of the things that we kind of pride ourselves on, is that we're a true West Virginia small business, which we think is unique, right?
Yeah.
Something we're proud of, like I said. But the company was founded in 2007. It was really kind of a moonlight project for the two co-founders of the company, right? They were on a contract under a large prime contractor at the time, working contracts at the FBI. And they saw a need to develop some products that would be useful to them in their everyday job, working in those programs. So they started, working after hours on the business. I would say I think in 2015 is when they went full time, 100% Lakota, and from there it's really just grown.
Yeah.
Because we are fortunate enough to have that experience developing those biometric databases, right?
That makes a
Supporting those
lot of
programs.
sense.
Yep. And over time, one of our other products that we'll cut this part. Can I promote products on this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you
All
are.
right. So I mentioned Ani, who's our SDK, right?
Yeah.
That's the engine behind one of our probably most commonly used products that we sell internationally as well. It's called Whorl. It's
Yeah.
WHORL. Whorl. Now, our Whorl product is just a Windows-based application that allows an end user to open any type of biometric file, right? So I mentioned before that there's many different standards under that ANSI NIST ITL standard, right? So if an end user has an FBI EBTS file, they want to open it, they can read it, they can see all the biometric data, the images, they can see the biographic data, they can manipulate the data, edit the data as they need. They can also create a new file from that data and submit it or build it against the other specs that we support, right? So maybe they need to submit that biometric data to a different endpoint, but it has to conform with the standard or specification that ABIS is expecting, right?
Right.
So from there, Whorl became like an everyday tool to open, edit, and view biometric files. And then from there, we've added the capability to plug and play with the many different capture devices. So now you can do a full-fledged enrollment workflow. So you can build a biometric file from the ground up.
So can I ask, when you
yeah.
when you are building those, do you have to work with a vendor to say like to see how they're capturing the data? Like, do you need to work with a specific technology to build the template?
What we would need is we would grab their SDK, right? And we would integrate it into our solution so we can communicate with that device,
Right.
and then pull the images from that device, whether it's fingerprint, palm print, iris. For face, really, you can use any type of camera, even the webcam that may be integrated in the computer already. But iris requires a specific camera. So we've integrated a couple different devices there that we support. And then fingerprint, there's a number of them that we support, and palm scanners as well. So it's really what we try to bring is a vendor agnostic approach, right? We try to give the end user a scalable architecture to build from. So it's not a one size fits all system, but it can be a bespoke system, custom solution. And we can be cost effective because we work with different vendors, both on the capture side and maybe even on the back end with the matching as well. So we've developed a really good relationship or rapport with a lot of different companies that helps us become scalable, customizable.
Is that part of the appeal of an event like this for you guys? You get to come and meet vendors and connect. Yeah.
I mean, one, you stay top of mind. You stay in the industry. You're seeing what trends are evolving, or, coming out of the industry, and you get that face-to-face time with the vendors that you don't normally get day to day, and it may just be emails back and forth, or text or video calls, right? Yeah. So these events are helpful in that regard to continue building the relationships.
The unique role that you play and the unique place where you exist.
Yeah.
I mean, events like this must be crucial. And I know you travel a lot.
Yeah, we're starting to travel more. So, like I said, we're a small company based in West Virginia, but we're trying to expand globally. So having an event in the EU is awesome. We came last year as well. And we saw a benefit in coming all this way because you get access to different vendors.
Right.
As well as, we are supporting some international agencies and clients, so we get to finally meet them face to face. We get to learn how they're using our tools, what they may need, what additional features or support they may need.
Is one of them Interpol? Do you work with those guys?
We don't work directly with Interpol, but we support their specification.
Okay.
So if an end user wants to have a system that needs to build that specific file, we can give them that support to build that file.
I only asked because I kept walking by their booth and being like,
I spoke to them.
Guys. Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
and Frontex was with them as well, which is cool.
Do you talk to government representatives here, or is there any are there connections to be made for Lakota in that regard?
Yeah, because the end user could be the the Ministry of Defense, let's say, for a certain country, or a border patrol agency, maybe a law enforcement agency, a national police agency. So we can speak to them. I saw the many delegates walking around that were from different agencies, which was good. So yes, there is an advantage to coming to these conferences because a lot of the delegation walking around attending the different keynotes were actual representatives from, let's say, the Ministry of Defense for a certain country here in the EU, or Border Patrol Agency, National Police. So we did get to have those conversations with those end users, but typically in this industry, you're not going to sell directly to that agency. You're going to work with maybe an international partner, maybe an integrator. You're going to wait for an RFP to come out and submit a proposal. So for me, as the single salesperson within the company, I like to make as many relationships as I can with the integrators, the other biometric companies that are located in the EU, let's say, for regionally speaking, that can be an extension of our sales team, right? Somebody we can work with, somebody that knows the language, that can monitor for those RFPs, alert us when those opportunities come out. Because it is hard to follow all the different procurement sites, right? Where all of these different RFPs are delivered through. So it's really good to find those international partners to work through or work with, right? That can kind of keep the finger on the pulse for all of the rest of the world, right? Since we're so small and we're located in just the U.S. So.
Yeah.
Where are you guys looking ahead to this year, or what are you looking ahead to? Like, where do you set your focus on? Because there are like the hot topics in the industry that everybody they're unavoidable. But like, what about for you guys? What's the kind of like the next 6 months of like in terms of?
Yeah, I would say this is conference season for us.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's some travel coming up that we're excited about. We'll probably do Identity Week America in DC in September. There's an International Association for Identification Conference, or IAI, in August, which is in Orlando this year. We'll exhibit there. That has more of a forensic focus, but there is international attendance as well. And of course, we get to reconnect with the vendors that we work with as well, right, during the exhibition. So get through the conference season. We do have some new products that we're excited to release, and some procurements that we're in the running for that haven't been awarded yet. But if things go well, it's going to be a very busy 6 months. Yeah, we're going to keep evolving the software that we have.
Yeah.
You know, we made some good connections this week, so a lot of things to follow up on that we think that are, you know, we have some SDKs that we can provide some other agencies that we met with. So they didn't know we existed, right? So we were able to make that intro to them this week. So lots to follow up on, which is always a good thing.
This is one reason we're so glad to talk to you on the podcast, because when we first met you in DC last year, and when you started telling us about your tech, we were like, we weren't really familiar with it, and we were like, how did we not know about this? It seems so important.
It's
so
like
it's
a piece of a puzzle that fits in perfectly.
Yeah, and that's a good way to describe us. I think we are certain components or pieces to a larger puzzle, right?
Yeah.
We're not the end-to-end solution, but we can put all the pieces together, which includes some of our pieces, right?
Well, I mean, when I hear you like talking about what you guys do, I can't come up with a good analogy, but I feel like there are several examples from the industry and from conversations we've had where while we're reading about something, writing about something, or talking to somebody, we're like, man, it seems like there's a perfect missing piece in there for someone to develop something to unify these things, to make either like, you know, the vendor's job more streamlined or the end user's job more streamlined. And this is just such a good example of that. And I can only imagine how grateful the agents who use, you know, these solutions are that they exist, because there are enough examples out there where the tech is there, but it's just really clunky and really difficult to get people in certain fields to have to, you know, make it a part of their daily routine.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best example is we work with a lot of the hardware manufacturers out there. They don't necessarily want to develop the software also. They want to be really good at developing the hardware.
Yeah.
And then we come in because we develop good software that can complement their devices, right? So now we've become a team approach, you know, where we both support each other in that sense, right? So you don't have to be good at all the things, but you can bring what you're best at to the table, and then build that larger system. So
I know that you seem to be a pretty humble guy, so this will probably just make you squirm, but I do want to ask you about any sense of mission that you guys may have, because you have connected us with a couple different organizations that are doing really important work, and you've helped to facilitate conversations with them. So it seems like there isn't simply a profit motive with you as there is with us, where we're in it for the money.
Insanely money. Yeah.
Fair enough. You guys got to pay the bills. So for me, I've been in the biometrics industry now with Lakota only since March of 2020, so a little over 5 years, right? And I've been able to make connections with people in the industry all over the world, which is probably the best part of my job.
Right.
Outside of the fact that we have a great company and great people to work with, I get to work from my home state, which is great as well. We get to keep our top talent in the state to help us continue to develop and improve our products and provide engineering services. So that's always good. But what I've developed over this last 5 years is, I guess, just a good rapport with a lot of the best companies in the market and build those relationships. And to me, it's important to I think things come full circle. If I can help someone else make an introduction to a company that they need or a product that they need, and it helps them succeed, you know, in my mind, that'll come back to help in the long run.
Yeah.
So it's just building those relationships, being helpful, staying humble, and you know, that's my motivation, I guess, would be just to make those connections and to be as helpful as we can to show that Lakota has a really strong knowledge of this industry, and that we're willing to work with anyone. You know, we don't need to be in a silo operating as, you know, just Lakota, I guess. If that makes sense.
That's a great answer. And it's a great note to end on, especially because the conference is shutting down as we speak.
But they're getting ready to kick us out.
We should reconnect in a couple of weeks and just like reflect on what this event was like and what's next.
That would be great. Yeah. Let's definitely keep the conversation going.
John Denver will be out of my head because I almost have it.
Yeah, I would like Country Roads to be playing in the background during this recording. When you guys edit it,
it will be.
I just want like the soundtrack playing in the background.
I will pay whatever the estate of John Denver is charging.
All right, here we are a few weeks later, following up remotely, just connecting again with Sam. Sam, always good to see you. So Identity Week was just wrapping up last time we talked, and I think that we can all say it was a successful event for all of us, but very curious to know at this point, like how have things gone since then? I think you mentioned at the end of our last chat that you were making a lot of connections at Identity Week. You had some potential work in the pipeline, depending on how things shook out. So whatever you can tell us, we'd be interested to know.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for having me back on for part two. The show was a success for us. I think, like I mentioned before, it's a really good validation for us that, you know, there is a market for us in the EU, in the UK, right? We got a lot of good face-to-face time with some of the vendors that we support in our software, some of the integrators that we've worked with, and some of the end users as well, right? So it was really good to have those face-to-face conversations. I think that solidifies the relationships for us. And we can also get feedback in real time on what's missing or maybe what features are needed, right, still from these end users or from these integrators. So, and we get to see what the latest and greatest technology is. So I think I mentioned in the first part, you know, we were right across from the startup booths, right? And you know, there's a lot of cool technology out there. We actually purchased a device that was at the startup booth.
Cool.
We can talk about that later, but we'll probably integrate that device into our live scan solution. So that was pretty cool. And you know, since then, I just had a demo today, this morning. That was a direct follow-up from a conversation we had in Amsterdam, so that was good. We got to showcase some of our products that they were interested in seeing. So the next step will be to provide them with a trial, and we'll see where things go with that. And then another, you know, interesting thing that came, there's an RFI out that we're going to respond to, but we're going to need the help of another organization that was in Amsterdam. We have worked with them before, but it was just really unique timing that this RFI came out right after Amsterdam, and I was able to reach out to them and pick up the conversation and say, you know, here's a perfect opportunity for us to collaborate on. So that's in the works. And then, like I mentioned, you know, to you guys, there's a couple things in the pipeline right now that we're still waiting on. It's still going to be a busy summer for sure. And you know, there's still some follow-up I need to do from new connections we made there as well. So
Yeah.
That's so good to hear. I mean, I think that'll make the folks at Identity Week really happy to hear this because
Mhm.
that's exactly why you have a a conference. And I think if I remember correctly, your booth, the Lakota booth, wasn't it like directly next to the startup zone? I forget what they called it.
Yeah.
But you were right there because,
Yeah.
every time we walked by, sometimes we would come and chat with you, but other times it was like, oh, Sam's talking to somebody. Let's just,
Leave them
let
alone.
him do his, yeah, let him do his thing. But that's awesome. That's so good to hear. And it's only been, 2 weeks, I think. So to hear
Right.
how much you've packed into these 2 weeks following the show is just such a testament to what Identity Week is about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
something we hope to continue to participate in. Yeah, for sure.
I just want to be clear that we at ID Tech are not paid to advertise for Identity Week. We are simply friends with them and we love going to it. But it is genuinely really interesting to hear this because it's like it does, like Tony said, it shows kind of how the industry works, that people need to meet and exchange ideas and show off their tech, and doing it in person helps a lot. So I'd be curious, Sam, I don't know how much you can really say, but whatever you can tell us about the technology you mentioned that you guys bought there from the one of the startups, it sounds like this was something it was it literally you learned about it there at the show, saw it, and as a team you were like, we need this, and got the ball rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. So they actually approached us, and I never got a chance to actually stop by their booth to see the technology. But they actually followed up with me right when the very next week. So we scheduled a call and got to learn more about the device directly from the CEO of the company. And it's a driver's license scanning device, but it's got some other unique feature sets that we could probably benefit from. So we're going to be in an R&D phase with that and see how it can fit into our solutions
That's
and help
awesome.
streamline the process of collecting data from IDs, right? Identification documents. So
Yeah, I also wanted to ask because you guys were there. I never totally got the like full picture of how it works, but you were part of kind of a state delegation to some
Mhm.
degree, right, of businesses. So when you come back from an event like that, is there follow-up with government officials, or is it just sort of like they leave you to it, you do your work, and that's it?
Yeah, it's funny you said that. So I actually filled out a survey today. So there's a post-event survey that the vendors are, required to fill out.
Mhm.
Um, what the state wants to see is the state of West Virginia, that is, they want to see that the event was, beneficial. They also want to know if we can predict any revenue over the next 12 months that are directly, directly impacted from attending this event.
Mhm.
So they give you price, ranges that you can select from. So, that's good. The state wants to know that there is an ROI for the state by helping its companies succeed and grow its revenue, right?
Yeah. And it sounds like you
Uh,
guys are making the case, so it's a happy
Yep.
ending.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it worked out really well for us. Like I said, it took a lot of the burden off of us for setting up the booth, designing the booth, handling all that. Um, pre and post event logistics, right? We really just had to fly over there and walk into the show and do our thing, right? We didn't have to do any of the setup or tear down. So it was super beneficial. And then from a funding standpoint, they took a lot of the burden off of the travel costs and the participation costs off of us too. So extremely
Alex,
thankful. We're very, very fortunate to have that type of collaboration in our state.
Alex, I hope you don't mind, but I think I'm going to take this opportunity to just drop the bombshell that ID Tech will be relocating to West Virginia. Um, Something that's been planned for months and months and months, and this is just a coincidence that Sam, you happen to be the guest when I just decided to reveal that. But we'll be neighbors soon.
That's great. There's a house for sale right next to me, so feel free.
Done.
Yeah.
Literal neighbors.
I'm sure it'll be a little more affordable than Toronto. So by all means.
Possibly, yeah. Yeah, I think you're
Sam,
probably onto something.
Tony is an excellent colleague, but I don't know that he's a neighbor you want to have. Just want to be totally clear about this.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I'll take it into advisement. Yeah.
so I also wanted to ask about your general reflections because, like we said, it's been a couple weeks since the show. Like looking back, I don't know what stood out to you, um, like technology wise, trend wise. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing for me is, Lakota's not in the secure ID document world, so to speak. I think I saw a lot of vendors there that, produce those documents in a secure format or secure way.
Mhm.
Um, Document printing companies. One of the companies that was with us is Troy Group, right? Where they have specialized toners that are printed onto these documents that verify that those documents are real, right, and certified through the actual toner that's printed onto the paper.
That's
So
cool.
um, that's a West Virginia-based company that's worldwide, world renowned for that specific thing. So the other thing is on the authentication side, there's a lot of one-to-one or maybe one-to-one verification type applications. That's not so much in our wheelhouse,
Mm.
but we're learning about that industry, and I think there's ways we can cross over into it or help support that side of the biometrics industry, if you will. Um, and really just again back to the face-to-face interactions, you really get a better sense for the different cultures that are represented within the
Mhm.
EU and
Mm.
how diverse it is over there, and
Yep.
how each country, even though each country can have its own unique challenges, even though they're all under that EU umbrella. Um, but their approach to identity um, can be different, right? So there's just a tremendous learning experience attending these international conferences, stuff we don't get here in the States attending these domestic shows, right?
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, we had our own little debrief last week, I think it was, and that's something that we kept coming back to is just how important it is to get that face-to-face time and to be exposed to all these different, these different companies that are in the EU and that are scattered all over the world. There were a lot of companies from Asia as well. And that's just an experience that you cannot get virtually or you know, through email, just being
No,
introduced to people through email. Just
no,
being
absolutely.
there and going to these booths and speaking to these people, having them come by your booth, it's just such a cool experience.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you get to take the conversations a lot further.
Mhm.
There's no time barriers, right? You're not wrapped into a 1 hour Zoom call. You can take the conversation offline. You can follow up more quickly and easily, right?
Yeah.
Um, we were able to go out and have dinner and drinks with some of our vendors too, that we and get to know those people, uh, you know, in a more down to earth way, so to speak. Tony and I, I want the whole world to know that Tony's a great drinking partner. And we found a very cool bar in Amsterdam that we can't speak of.
Yeah,
It's off
literally,
the
we
map.
can't speak of it.
Yeah,
It,
literally.
I'd ring a few doorbells before some guy across the street was like, "It's the one over there."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just and we had some other vendors with us that night too, and it's just really good to get people, on a down to earth level to really
Yeah.
understand who they
Yeah.
are, more about them, where they come from, and then that just solidifies the relationships even more. You can talk freely about ideas,
Yeah.
um, and so on. So
Yeah,
Agreed.
and it's a testament to the people you were with that they wouldn't let me join the group. It just shows what kind of a standard they have.
well, Alex, I do believe I sent out the notification of where we were, but you were preoccupied, so we understand.
I was asleep. I was asleep. This event took a lot out of me, but it is
Yeah,
appreciated.
yeah,
Uh,
that's
but yeah, so what's next? Believe you told us offline that you have probably multiple events coming up that you're going to attend. So what's next on your itinerary?
Yeah, so in August we'll be exhibiting at the IAI conference. So that's the International Association for Identification. It's in Orlando this time around. So we'll be exhibiting there in the week of August 11th in Orlando. Um, so if you're listening and will be attending, please stop by and see us. After that is Identity Week America in DC in September. Um, so we plan on being at that conference as well. That's one that we try to get to each and every year. And then there's some things coming up in the fall that we're looking at. There's some border security stuff. And the state of West Virginia is also sponsoring another show in Taiwan.
Oh, cool.
Um, it's more related to aerospace and defense, but they are hosting another booth there. So we're definitely interested in trying to get into the Taiwanese market as well. So we'll probably, fingers crossed to be able to attend that event this fall.
Cool.
So, and then aside from that, it's, hopefully a couple of these things that we went after will come to fruition. Some international things, which we're excited about, but it's just a waiting game at this point.
Mhm.
Uh, so maybe we can catch up in a year and see where we are then. But
Yeah, for sure.
of course,
And
when you move to West Virginia, Tony, we can catch up. So
Yeah, we'll just holler over the fence as I borrow a beer. Yeah.
well, Sam, it's always a pleasure catching up with you. So great to see you in
Guys
Amsterdam.
as well.
And, I hope I'll see you in person soon. DC, I think, at the very latest.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Hope to see you guys there for sure. Um, and I just want to say, thanks to you both and Dave. I know Dave hasn't been able to be as involved as he wanted to be, but I appreciate you guys, giving me this opportunity for letting us tell our story and for what you guys are doing in the industry overall. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. All
Great.
right, guys, we'll do well.